In what Jesus taught, we have come to chapter 20 of Matthew, and I'm going to pick it up in verse 20. Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children with her 2 sons, worshipping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, Well, what do you want? She said unto him, Grant that my 2 sons may sit, one on your right hand and one on your left hand in your kingdom. Jesus answered and said, You really don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They said unto him, Yet we are able. And he said unto them, well, let me just stop there and comment on that. Jesus is basically saying, are you able to go through all of the things that I will go through in my lifetime? Being rejected, being scorned, being laughed at, being mocked, being called all kinds of names, like he has a demon. Are you able to go through some of the physical punishment that may come upon you for being my disciple? Are you able to go through all of those things? And they said, yes, Lord, we will. And of course, we know from reading the rest of the New Testament and the book of Acts that many of God's people and ministers did go through all kinds of those things that Jesus went through. But he goes on to say, you shall indeed drink of my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them of whom it is prepared of my Father. The Father is going to have to make that decision on who is going to sit upon the right hand, the left hand of Jesus when Jesus comes into his kingdom. You think for a moment. Think of the people down through the ages. Enoch, Noah, Moses. Think of Joshua. Think of some of the prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, who was known by God the Father from before he was born. He was called to a certain duty and a certain job. Think of then Jeremiah, some of the other prophets. Think of John the Baptist, whom the Lord said that among all of those that are born of women, there is none greater than John the Baptist. Didn't say that he was the great. It didn't say that there may have been some others that are just as great, but Jesus said nobody born of women has been greater than John the Baptist. Think of the Apostle Paul and all the work that he did, and 18 epistles of the New Testament with the hand or the mind of Paul. Yes, think of all of these servants of the Lord down through the centuries and the ages, and then try to think, who would you put on the right and left hand of Jesus when he comes in his kingdom? That is just an unbelievable task that I don't think any of us, none of us humans are qualified for. And in fact, Jesus said it's the Father that is going to have to decide that. Nobody else, not even Jesus Christ himself. Only the Father will have to decide who is going to sit on Jesus' right hand and left hand when Jesus comes into his kingdom. And verse 24, when the 10 heard about this, they were moved with indignation against the 2 brothers. But Jesus said unto them, you know that the princes of the Gentiles, the leaders, the kings of the Gentiles, they exercise dominion over them. They can rule with vigor and power and might. And they that are great exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whosoever would be great among you, let him be your servant. And whosoever would be chief among you, let him be your servant. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served and pampered, and everybody just waiting on him and around him and just serving him. Son of Man came not to be served, but to minister, to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. That is humility that Jesus is speaking about. That no matter which person it might be in the family of God and in the ministry of the Lord, there's got to be humility. It isn't a case of sticking out your chest and saying, yes, I'm the most important person, I'm the most important minister here. It's being humble, willing to put all of that away and to be humble and to serve. Chapter 21. And when they drew nigh unto Jerusalem, and were come to Bethsaida, unto the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples. And he said to them, go into the village over against you, and straightway you shall find an ass tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them to me. And if any man say unto you, what are you doing? Answer and say, the Lord has need of them, and straightway he will send them. Verse 12. And Jesus went into the temple of God, and cast out all of them that sold and bought. Well, they had to bring it too, but they bought in the temple. Overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. And he said unto them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. Now, let me give you the facts about the temple, Herod's temple. There was the outer wall of the temple. In were different courtyards and walls and doors. And you had two or three of these courtyards. And then finally, you would get to where we think of the temple proper, the holy place and the Holy of Holies. But when you go in the doors of the wall around the temple, the courtyard there was for those that indeed were selling. I don't say that this was God's intention that that courtyard would be for those that are selling doves and animals for the sacrificial system the people could buy, but they had made it that. They had decided to use that first inner court to do those things, to transact the buying of sacrificial animals and so forth in their sacrificial service. Notice that Jesus, turning them out of there because they were misusing what they were doing, turned them out of there and said that my house shall be called a house of prayer, not a house of thieves. But you have made it a house of thieves. Jesus recognized all of that, all of Herod's building of the temple, and you can look at it in a biblical pictorial Bible dictionary, the 5-set volume that I have, and you can look at it. And Jesus then, in these words here, classified all of it, including that outer wall, as the temple of the Lord. As the temple of the Lord. part of that outer wall in 70 AD by the Romans and Titus that destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, part of that wall was not destroyed. There were some stones of that wall left, and today we have it, and it's called the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. And that was part of the temple that Jesus is talking about here. It is all of that. Jesus classified all of it as the temple. And part of that Wailing Wall, or part of that temple wall, is today now known as the Wailing Wall. And the prophecy of Matthew 24, where Jesus said that there will be destruction on Jerusalem and not one stone of that temple will be laid upon another, but all cast down, has not yet been fulfilled, my friends. It did not happen in 70 AD. It is yet to happen in the future. Part of that temple wall is still standing today in Jerusalem. But in the end time, when Jerusalem will be surrounded by armies and Jerusalem will be desolated, that wall will come crashing down. And Jesus' prophecy of Matthew 24, that not one stone will be left upon another, will be fulfilled. But that is yet for the future. So Jesus cleanses the temple. Turn my page here in this thin page Bible. Sometimes I have to wet my fingers to get the pages turned, and I'm still having trouble. Yes, it's okay to get a large print Bible if you can turn the pages. And this doesn't seem to want to happen today. They are really stuck together. Sorry about this, but these pages are really stuck together for some reason. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Word of warning for very, very thin paged Bible. Nice large printing, but very, very thin pages. Verse 18. Now in the morning, as he was returning unto the city, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it, and found nothing thereon, but leaves only, and said unto it, Let no fruit grow on you henceforth forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. Now just think of God. Jesus could stop the storm on the sea when they were in the boat and the disciples were all upset, and he could command the storm to cease. Here, he can command a fig tree to never bear fruit again. Think of the power that this God of the universe has. Just by the words out of his mouth, he can say to a storm, stop, be still. He can say to a fig tree, you'll no longer bear any figs. And it will happen. It's just unreal when you think of the power and the might of the eternal God to command all of these physical things in whatever way he wants to do with all of these physical things. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is this fig tree withered away? Jesus answered and said unto them, Truly I say unto you, if you have faith and doubt not, you shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if you shall say unto this mountain, Be moved, and be you cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. In another part that we read recently, Jesus said that certain miracles come only by much prayer and fasting. But people indeed been shown in the Bible, people have been able to do miraculous things in believing, in prayer, in fasting. And indeed, it will be at the time of the end, when the two witnesses in the book of Revelation that will dwell in Jerusalem, they will be able to command that those that would try to harm them be put down, even be killed. They will have that miracle working power to be able to do such things. But indeed, many things in our daily living must be done through prayer and fasting.